When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. You should take the approach that you're wrong. Your goal is to be less wrong. You get paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of problems you solve. It is possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary. No, I don't ever give up. I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated. If you need inspiration, don't do it. I'm not trying to be anyone's savior. I'm just trying to think about the future and not be sad. The first step is to establish that something is possible, then probability will occur. Any product that needs a manual to work is broken. I take the position that I'm always to some degree wrong, and the aspiration is to be less wrong. I think it would be great to be born on Earth and die on Mars, just hopefully not at the point of impact. Constantly think about how you could be doing things better. Every person in your company is a vector. Your progress is determined by the sum of all vectors. They were building a Ferrari for every launch when it was possible that Honda Accord might do the trick. Life needs to be more than just solving problems every day. You need to wake up and be excited about the future. It is important to view knowledge as sort of a semantic tree. Make sure you understand the fundamental principles, I, the trunk, and big branches, before you get into the leaves or there is nothing for them to hang on to. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. Constantly seek criticism. A well thought out critique of whatever you're doing is as valuable as gold. I came to the conclusion that we should aspire to increase the scope and scale of human consciousness in order to better understand what questions to ask. Really, the only thing that makes sense is to strive for greater collective enlightenment. One of the really tough things is figuring out what questions to ask. Once you figure out the question, then the answer is relatively easy. You need to live in a dome initially. But over time, you could terraform Mars to look like Earth and eventually walk around outside without anything on. So it's a fixer-upper of a planet. Take a risk and do some things bold. You won't regret it. Nobody ever changed the world by working 40 years a week. A failure is an option here if things are not failing. You're not innovating enough. Persistence is very important. You should not give up unless you are forced to give up. I could either watch it happen or be a part of it. If you're trying to create a company, it's like baking a cake. You have to have all the ingredients in the right proportion. You have to say, well, why did it succeed where others did not? Being an entrepreneur is like eating glass and staring into the abyss of death. It's okay to have your eggs in one basket as long as you control what happens to that basket. If you get up in the morning and think the future is going to be better, it is a bright day. Otherwise, it's not. I say something, and then it usually happens. Maybe not on schedule, but it usually happens. Boil things down to their fundamental truths and reason up from there, as opposed to reasoning by analogy. I was raised by books. It's very important to actively seek out and listen very carefully to negative feedback. This is something that is important to get done, and we should just keep doing it or die trying. We need things in life that are exciting and inspiring. There are times when something is important enough, you believe in it enough that you do it in spite of the fear. Stuff doesn't need to change the world to be good. A good sign as to whether there's free speech is someone you don't like allowed to say something you don't like? Life is too short for long-term grudges. Let the future tell the truth and evaluate each one according to his work and accomplishments. The present is theirs. The future, for which I really worked, is mine. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. People work better when they know what the goal is and why. I wouldn't say I have a lack of fear. In fact, I'd like my fear emotion to be less because it's very distracting and fries my nervous system. You shouldn't do things differently just because they're different. They need to be better. Don't delude yourself into thinking something's working when it's not, or you're gonna get fixated on a bad solution. Don't confuse schooling with education. I didn't go to Harvard, but the people work for me did.